Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today, once again, I'm here talking about some major news, not in regards to Watford, but the news itself could have massive ramifications for the future of our club in our bid for the playoffs or Premier League promotion in the near future. A few days ago, Italian news broadcaster RAI reported that João Paulo Pozzo, the father of Gino Pozzo, who owns Udinese, was going to sell 80% of his stake in the club to American investors for a reported 150 million euros. Today, as I record this video, Andrew French at the Watford Observer subsequently released an article clarifying that, in fact, from his understanding, the deal would be for the entirety of the club in a deal worth between 150 and 180 million euros, releasing the Pozzo family of any control in Udinese. Right, what do I think about this deal? Well, I'm certainly in the same boat as you guys. I had no idea whatsoever this was going on in the background. I feel quite shocked. I have a little bit of disbelief, but also, actually, on reflection, this is probably something that's been in the works for a significant period of time. Now, by no means am I a financial expert. I don't have any real knowledge when it comes to takeovers of football clubs at all. But with any deal that's this large, these things take months, sometimes even years to go through. And also, no disrespect to João Paulo Pozzo, Gino's father. I'm sure he's a lovely guy and has enjoyed owning a club in his home country for a number of years. But he is in his early to mid 80s. For me, if I was an 80-year-old owning a football club, I'm not quite sure, coming towards the latter end of my life, that I would want the pressure and stress of that. And I feel particularly in the past couple of seasons, Ginos' focus has shifted away from Watford. I think that's a fair statement for me to say. Now, of course, that may not be the case. He may have dedicated the same amount of time, if not more time, to Watford than he has done before. But from an outsider looking in as a Watford fan, I do feel, in a sense, we have been neglected in that regard, is the feeling I have towards Gino over the past couple of seasons. And what this deal does is it should now shift the focus from two clubs, which is quite difficult to deal with operationally. We've seen Gianluca Nani, our sporting director, having to work almost in a dual role between both clubs. I mean, that must be a nightmare for him to deal with as a sporting director. What this should do now, as I was saying, is shift the focus just to us, because we are now the sole club in the ownership of the Pozzo family. It used to actually be three clubs. If you remember, they owned Granada, Udinese and Watford all at the same time. They sold Granada. They're currently about to sell Udinese, by all accounts, according to reports, which will just leave little old Watford. And given the statements Gino has issued over the past 6 months or so and the targets he's outlined, this clearly says to me that more resources will potentially be made available. Andrew French, in his fantastic article today, which I urge you to go and read, said that as part of this move, it should hopefully mean that we can retain all of our key assets from last season, talking about really the likes of Georgie Shakfatatse, who recently signed a long-term contract, if we remember that. Imran Louza, of course, he was voted player of the season, and Kwadwo Bar as well, whose value has shot up in the past season or so. And if that allows us to retain our current group and add to that further, for me, you can only view that as a positive. Equally, playing devil's advocate here, nothing could change. They could bank the money from the Udinese sale, which they're more than entitled to do, and continue operating Watford how they were. But I think the most realistic target for them is to achieve Premier League promotion. Playing in the top flight of English football is much more lucrative than playing in the top division of Italian football. That is a simple fact. And I believe deep in my heart that I think that is what Gino Pozzo is trying to achieve here. I think he's going to try and get Watford promoted and then sell the club from that point onwards. I think that is the strategy here. I could be wrong. I could be totally reading the situation differently to how they're viewing it, but I feel as a fan, looking at it from my perspective, they're going to try and do as much as feasibly possible to get Watford back into the top flight. And then once I've done that, obviously our valuation shoots up. There's more interest around Premier League clubs, of course. We're in a good area. We're north of London. Our facilities are of an adequate standard, of course, as well. So I think for me, that is the long-term or short-term goal. You could argue that the short-term goal of Gino Pozzo at Watford now. So we'll have to see how this one develops. By all accounts, looking at all the reports we've seen, this is pretty much a done deal. We're now just waiting for the official confirmation. So do let me know your thoughts and feelings on this in the comments section down below. Do you feel that this is now going to be a change in how Watford is ran from an operational perspective? Or equally, as I said, do you feel Gino and the Pozzo family may just bank that money from Udinese and continue with Watford how they have been for the past few seasons? It's an interesting discussion point. It's some major news, as I said at the start of the video, and as I said, it's going to be interesting to see how this develops over the next few days and weeks. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.